Welcome back to Crystal Clear. And I love me some foreshadowing. It's one of my favorite aspects of serialized animation nowadays. An offhand line of dialogue, visual gags, or serious visual clues that often not only adds replay value into these shows. So when you're watching the second time, you're like, I get it.
She thinks it's the all-seeing eye, but it's not.
It is the most efficient way to spy on your enemies.
I summon the all-seeing eye to tear a hole into the sky.
Or when you're binging in the midst of hiatus, waiting for episodes, and you're all like, oh. But usually, it's just pretty neat payoff. And then there's Steven Universe. Steven Universe has made me afraid of the word foreshadowing. They never foreshadow anything cool, anything cute, or just neat. They always foreshadow something horrifying.
You better pray your space goddess's magic can bring people back from the dead.
When people point out foreshadowing, sometimes it can be a big reach, but usually it's dead on, and it's something that always makes me cower in fear. Now, this isn't the same as theories, pulling from established lore or storytelling patterns to paint a narrative of what's to come. Nah. Steven Universe foreshadowing is usually a line of dialogue, or a simple sequence of events that's often applied to the greater overarching story in a much bigger way. Like, Greg being kidnapped and sent to a human zoo.
So the hand wasn't here to snatch up humans for a human zoo?
Pearl shapeshifting into rose quartz, something that was a very traumatic event for her.
Steven tagged you, now you have to turn into Steven.
Oh, please.
Or the Crystal Gems being refugees from an interstellar war, but now they're at our local grocery store. Although, yeah, I guess there is cool foreshadowing like Lapis dropping the barn on Blue Diamond.
You could drop the barn on the beach, and we'd all be neighbors.
Which, hey, we did call in a video. Imagine Lapis just throwing the barn at the diamonds, and what if the barn went out that way? Just hurling at the diamonds. No, it's not gonna do much, but alongside somehow predicting that Bismuth would be the only crystal gem of a brand new form after the time skip. For some reason, all the gems kept their change for mind reformations, except for Bismuth? But yeah, foreshadowing Steven Universe is often pretty terrifying. But what if I told you? Foreshadowing that is definitely not cute, foreshadowing that would only cause Steven to spiral further, was not only planted in Steven Universe's future, but has already manifested. And that very soon, Steven, with his brand new diamond powers, will be responsible for incinerating Little Homeworld into ashes. Yeah, no, terrifying thought, right? Especially with what Steven's already going through. But hey, I don't write the show, that's all the Crewniverse. I don't want your smoke or Little Homeworlds. But unfortunately, that's just the path we're on. Alright, what am I babbling about? Allow me to explain. An image has been floating around social media, partly because when I saw it, I freaked out and reposted it onto social media, of a Tumblr post from user Scrumptiously Super Deer. Well, let me tell you, there's anything super scrumptious, it's that username that compiled quotes from a certain episode by the name of Bluebird and paired it with events that happened afterwards, all save for the last one. You remember when Aquamarine and Eyeball were holding Greg hostage? Yeah, he cut off his hair. It was actually really tragic. I'm actually still kind of shook by that. Kinda hoping the opening does an update to reflect that. You know what? The show itself doesn't even need to reflect that. Just have Greg back with his normal hair in his next appearance. Anyways, in that brief moment they were holding Greg up on the rooftop, they have that actually pretty chilling speech in Unfuse, and then things get kind of lame and they're making demands, and you're thinking, alright, they're definitely not gonna get what they want. Well, if you recall in my breakdown after that episode aired, I remarked that their demands were actually pretty telling, but I'm more so focused on the final demand. Aquamarine and Eyeball's demands may also be foreshadowing for things to come, wanting Steven's house destroyed, the crystal gems bubbled, and most importantly, Little Homeworld being burned to the ground. Steven's house and Little Homeworld especially are two locations bluntly advertised to any opposing forces that would want to crack at Steven. So while my overly obsessive cartoon super sensitive went off already, I gotta take it L. I only fixated on one part of that entire statement when I really should have been afraid of the whole thing. Aquamarine's demands for Greg's life were the following. Steven would have to destroy his house, bubble his friends, and burn Little Homeworld to the ground. And yeah, when you're watching it, you're just thinking, whatever, bro. The house just got rebuilt, it's not gonna get destroyed. Steven's not gonna bubble the gems, and he obviously can't bubble humans. And Little Homeworld, oh, wait, that actually sounds feasible and could happen. Or maybe you laughed that off too. Nevertheless, let's jump to where we are now. The most recent episode being Prickly Pear. Remember how that little tango between Steven and Cactus Steven ended? Well, if the episode isn't fresh in your memory, the episode concludes Steven making amends with Cactus Steven, offering and nearly begging for him to stay, only for Cactus Steven, against Steven's wishes, to jet right on out of there, running literally through the house and leaving a giant gaping hole in his place. He has destroyed, even if it's just a part, of Steven's house. Like, if you came home and a giant gaping cactus-sized hole was in your wall, and I mean like a really big cactus, you'd probably say, my house is destroyed. Or apartment. Apartment works. So for all intents and purposes, even if it's fixed right up in the next episode, although I do believe it will save some damage just because it sounds like Steven Universe, the house was still destroyed. So that's 1 for 3. But let's hop to the episode right before Prickly Pear. Little Graduation, the climax of which being Steven, afraid of the future and everyone leaving him, tries to prevent Lars and all of his friends from leaving by subconsciously tapping into his pink form and causing a giant dome to form around them. I'm pretty sure this is just a much larger form of his diamond shield, which has appeared in both Change Your Mind and the movie, but you know what you can also call this? A bubble. Maybe a diamond bubble, but a bubble nonetheless. And who was within that bubble? Well, golly, Steven's friends. I guess you can bubble humans after all. Crazy times. We live in crazy times. So now that's 2 for 3, and kind of consecutively. And notice these were all technically done by Steven's accord, just as how Aquamarine demanded. Cactus Steven, a practical extension of Steven and his powers, destroyed his house. Steven, by subconsciously tapping into his pink form, unwillingly bubbled all of his friends. So that just leaves one thing left: burning Little Homeworld to the ground. Now maybe the Creaniverse is just keeping us on our toes. People will look into foreshadowing, let's have these 2 things happen, and then have no payoff on the final one. And as much as I hope that's the case, we all know Little Homeworld burning to the ground is definitely the more difficult outcome to deal with, and thus is the most likely to happen. Now, of course, the how is always up to debate, but now we turn to the patterns. Considering destroying Steven's house and bubbling his friends has had Steven involved in some way, shape, or form, I'm gonna say he's also involved in burning Little Homeworld to the ground. And going off the trend of the season, it'll likely be because of his diamond powers. As I speculated in my Powers of the Diamonds videos, I do believe Pink Diamond is capable of having fire abilities. After all, rubies, amethysts, and jaspers do. They had to get it from somewhere. How would it not be the diamond who made them? But we've never seen Pink or Steven even have a hint of these powers. But perhaps for one reason or another, Steven gets worked up at Little Homeworld, and somehow, maybe he's not just paying attention, resting his hand on a flammable surface, or maybe again, opposing gyms arrive at Little Homeworld, things get literally too heated, and in his attempt to fight off his opponents, Steven accidentally destroys Little Homeworld by having it set on fire, a result of him being reckless. Hey, all I'm just saying, me and Lapis having water, Steven having fire, that'd be one hell of a homage to Avatar. Or maybe, just maybe, should the corrupted Steven be true, this little wormy boy, as I've been suggesting lately, could actually be the form of a dragon. Steven, in this monstrous transformation, utilizing his fire powers as fire breath, and in a loss of control, and a loss of consciousness, attacks and burns Little Homeworld down to the ground. And I don't think this theory is dark for the sake of being edgy. Steven is at the center of everything in Future. Everything comes back to Steven. And he's clearly at the point where he's rejecting help. And I believe the only way for him to accept help is for him to hit his lowest point. And I don't think these new powers be introduced, described as uncontrollable in press releases and synopsis, if it wasn't meant to genuinely spiral out of control and warrant that label. If this happens, I'm just terrified. Can't I say I would exactly be excited to see that development or more depressed Steven and just the imagery of the things the gems have worked for over the course of this 2-year time skip being reduced to nothing? But again, I could totally see that coming. But as always, these are just my depressing thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? Put on a happy face, unless you don't genuinely want to. And let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at OstricFox. We're also on Instagram. Special thanks to Janky Bones for creating an awesome thumbnail. For more of their wonderful art, you can find them on Tumblr at Janky Bones, and Twitter and Instagram at BoneJanky. And subscribe to their YouTube channel. Links in the description. Help Learn to Grow by either becoming a member of this channel or supporting us over at Patreon. Link in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please throw a like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Awestruck Fox, signing out.